Today we will be talking about toy box leadership. And to start out the class, I would like you to go ahead and get some Play-Doh and create your favorite childhood toy. And while you're doing this, be thinking about some of the challenges that you come across when you're creating your toy. If you think it would be easier to use a mold to do it, if your Play-Doh is too hard or too soft to do it, just have those ideas in your head. And you can go ahead and pause the video here and work on that. Next thing I would like you to do is go ahead and get out a piece of notebook paper, and I'll give you a minute to do that. Once you have gotten your notebook paper, I'd like you to answer these questions. What are some qualities of a good manager? Have you ever had a bad manager, had an experience with a bad manager, and what did they do that made them a bad manager? And then I'd like you to go ahead and brainstorm. Just write down some of those ideas that you were thinking of when you were playing with the Play-Doh. And what do you think that we can learn about management from playing with Play-Doh, from the problems that you came across and the ways in which you overcame those problems? So you can go ahead and pause the video and work on those, and I'm going to move on now. So today we're talking about Toy Box Leadership, which is a book by Ron Hunter Jr. and Michael E. Waddle. It's a book that helps to teach management lessons through the toys of our childhood. And we're going to talk about several different toys today. The first one we're going to talk about is Legos. And Legos represent the building blocks for connections. So, relationships. Building begins with connecting. Good managers will recognize the need for connection with their employees. They understand the complexity of relationships, and they work to positively develop those relationships. A quote from the book: "In the past, a leader was a boss. Today's leaders must be partners with their people. They no longer can lead solely based on positional power." So as a manager, you can't just go in and be this authoritative manager and say, "I am the boss, so you have to listen to me. Here is what you need to do," the end. That's all of the discussion we're going to have. You have to work to build a relationship with your employees, and you don't have to be best friends with them, but you have to have mutual respect and a mutual understanding of the company and the goals and desires for the company. And as a manager, you have to be able to pick the employees that are going to be compatible with the relationship building that you're trying to do. So, Lego bricks are reliable, compatible, and reusable. And you need your employees to have all these traits as well. If an employee is not reliable, then you have no idea if they're going to be there one day or not, if they're going to have a project done that you needed done or not. You have to have employees that are compatible with each other. You have to have employees that are team players, that have good communication skills and are able to work with others. And you have to have employees that are reusable. You have to have employees that want to be here, and you can count on them to show up the next day. You can count on them to be there when you need them. As a manager, you need to be able to recognize the failures in your own management. If you do have one of these failures, you need to know how to fix it. So within playing with Legos, you might misplace bricks. You might promote someone that's not fit for the job. If you're trying to build a tower and your base is a 2-pronged Lego and you needed a 3-pronged Lego, that's not going to be a good fit for your company. It's not going to be a good fit for the position. That one might need to go on the top of the tower, not the bottom. Another problem that you'll run into with Legos is that you're forcing the Lego to fit where it doesn't belong. So you're forcing relationships that aren't there. You may also isolate bricks. You may put a brick out by itself, a Lego out by itself, and that represents the employees who feel like they're singled out, employees that aren't building relationships and have nowhere to turn to. Employees you just forget to build a relationship with, and that makes them dissatisfied with their work, dissatisfied with their job. And then the last problem you may encounter with Legos is that you may have unorganized Legos. So you as a manager may not be focusing on the best fits for the company, and you may not be giving the employees a solid foundation to build upon. In Legos and in organizations, building always begins with the clicking sound of connections. You always want to hear those Legos clicking together when you build relationships with your employees. The next toy that we're going to learn a lesson from is Slinky Dog. And Slinky Dog is about the vision of the company. He represents how you pull your employees along and how you have to be patient with your employees so that they may reach the vision of the company. So vision pulls an organization forward by giving it direction. You have to pull through communication, you have to pull with courage, you have to pull through example, and you have to pull with determination. When you pull through communication, it is more than just hanging a mission statement in the lobby. People need to know where you're going in order to follow you. You have to constantly be communicating with your employees and letting them know, hey, this is where we're headed, this is why you need to do this. You also have to be courageous and be able to pull a group into new territory. If you're not confident in where you're going, employees aren't going to follow you. Employees like it when managers lead by example. You have to show them how to do something, and then they'll be able to do it, and they'll feel confident doing it. And lastly, you have to pull with determination. You have to always have a goal in mind, and you always have to be constantly striving for that goal. You have to pull your employees along behind you with all your might to get them to reach the vision that you have for your own company. Some problems you can encounter when playing with Slinky Dog and when pulling your employees. If you aren't pulling far enough, then employees may not see the overall scheme. They may just see the teeny tiny steps that you're taking, and you may not see as big of an impact as you're wanting to see. This is obvious with Slinky Dog. If you only pull Slinky Dog a little bit, he won't move because he hasn't gotten enough tension in his slinky to move forward. If you pull your employees too far, they may get off track. They may not know what they're supposed to do because you've gone way outside of the original vision for the company. This is evident with Slinky Dog. If you pull Slinky Dog too far away, then you could break Slinky Dog, or Slinky Dog's back end will just fly crazily and not know where to go. You could also pull your employees too soon. So you may just start out your company and then you decide to change an aspect of your company and you do it way too soon. The employees aren't ready for it and they're not able to prepare before that change happens. So you have to give your employees time to prepare for the change. You also might pull from the wrong end. You might try to change something that isn't really what you needed to change. So you may have an issue with safety procedures in your company, and instead of talking with employees and giving employees trainings on how to use the equipment properly, you just provide them with new gear to try to keep them safe. And that doesn't really fix the problem. This is evident with Slinky Dog, because if you pull from the back end, he doesn't move in the right way. Sometimes he won't go forward at all, and sometimes he will go crazy, and he won't have a direction to go in. The last toy that we're going to learn a management lesson from is Play-Doh. Play-Doh is all about mentoring. It's about the mold that makes the employee. To be able to mold employees into the productive team member that you need, you have to have employees that are open to new ideas. You have to have Play-Doh people. And these people are people that are humble, people that are teachable, and people that have a desire to succeed and a desire to learn about your company. You also have to be able to select people that are shaped by the molds that you need them to be shaped by. So, if you have a person in your company that is humble, is teachable, and has a desire to succeed, you have to be able to create a mold for those people to fit into. And if your mold is cracked, if your mold is broken, then those people are going to come out and they're going to be misshapen, they're going to have a few cracks in them, and that is not going to help you the vision of your company. Play-Doh people also have to be shaped when they're fresh, so it's much easier to teach a new employee something than it is to teach a long-term employee something. You have to focus on initial training. You have to focus on what you tell them in the first place, and you can't just go back on that and do the total opposite later in their career, because they're not going to be receptive to that change. Problems with the Play-Doh. You can't unmix the Play-Doh. So once you have given the employees an idea about what they're supposed to do, that is the idea that they have set in their head, and you can't go back and change that. If the employee is not fresh, they will harden and they will crack. If the employee is not a new employee, or is not given the opportunity to prepare for a change, then they may just keep doing what they've been doing, and at that point, they may quit. They may leave your company, even if they were a great employee before. Or you may have to fire an employee that was a really productive member before, but now that you've made this change, you have to fire them because they won't follow the new directions. So, the lesson you can learn from all this is that with employees, with Play-Doh, you have to have a perfect mold. You have to be able to create a mold that is flexible, but is also gives the employees a clear direction and tells them this is where we're going, and this is where you need to be, and this is what we need you to do. You have to always have that open communication with them, and you always have to tell them what they need to do so that they can be the most productive members of your company. So to wrap all this up, I would like you to get out another piece of notebook paper, and I'll give you a second to do that. And then go ahead and write these questions down. Describe what the Slinky dog represents, and tell me what happens if you pull the Slinky too fast. So what happens if you, as a manager, changes the vision of the company without giving your employees time to prepare? Once you've done that, you can pause the video to do that, but once you're done, looking forward into the next couple classes. Next class, we will be working on a few more toys from the Toy Box Leadership, and then we will be watching Toy Story, and we will, once we have done that, we will be presenting a Toy Box Leadership presentation. So in the next couple classes, while we're watching Toy Story and while we're talking about these toys, I would like you to be thinking about what toy you want to choose for your presentation. And I would like you to let me know what toy you're going to choose so that nobody else will take that toy from you. If you're at home, you can go ahead and email me a toy this week, or I would suggest that you wait until next week after we've talked about all of the toys. And you can just go ahead and email me that, and we will discuss it. So that is where we're going with our Toy Box Leadership unit. And I hope that you have learned a lot from today's lesson, and I hope to see you in class next week.